Hi, Alexis. Welcome back on the podcast.
Thanks a lot. Always happy to be here.
So last time we had a chat about the challenges that podcast publishers are going to be facing going into 2023. We talked about distribution, monetization, and promotion. I actually encourage listeners to go back to that episode and listen to it because I think it was packed with value. But what happened is after I pressed stop on the recording, we kept chatting. We talked a bit more about promotion, and you had great insights on the top 5 mistakes that podcast publishers are doing with the promotion of their show. So I thought it would be great to actually have a dedicated episode on this. Now, since founding Voxalyze, you've audited hundreds of shows, worked with tons of clients ranging from major broadcasters, but also indie publishers. So really a wide range of audiences and goals and content. Can you walk us through those top 5 mistakes?
We'll try to keep it short, but yeah, it's still amazing. And that in 2022/2023, there's still so many mistakes made time and time again by broadcasters of any size. The first mistake we see is podcast producers do not take promotion into account. They spend a lot of money to create great content, really quality content, but the production is on the half of it. It's not when you press the publish button on your hosting provider that the job is done. There's that English thing that I love, which says content is king, but distribution is queen. So you really need the job. I mean, publishing a podcast is only half the work. You really need to start about your promotion. And there's 3 main levels. I mean, the first one is podcast visibility optimization, and we're going to dive in coming mistakes a bit more into that. You have social media. There's a lot of things to be done on social media. And then podcasters have a lot of assets. They may have a blog, they may have a website, they may have a newsletter, they may have an audience, a community they can leverage. And people quite often just press publish and stop. No, you need to think about promotion. You need to go deeper into it.
It's not going to fall from the sky. It's not because you have great content that it's necessarily going to get an audience, right?
Exactly.
You mentioned podcast visibility optimization, and that's actually one of my favorite levers because it's so overlooked. It doesn't require any additional budget, and there are some really great quick wins to get there. Can you tell us more about podcast visibility optimization, aka PVO?
One of my favorite topics as well. PVO is basic. It's still very easy to do. And that leads me to second mistake we see with podcast publishers. They don't think enough about the show title and the author names. You see some of them coming with weird names, word plays, names that are not clear. No, it's a mistake. Do some research. Use Google, use Voxalyze. I could only encourage you to do that. We have a free tier. And in the title, explain what the show is about. Describe it as much as you can. If you call your show Tattoo, no one knows what tattoo is. You need to explain tattoo, podcast about marketing, about real estate, about whatever that is, but explain what it is. And the same for the authors or the publisher name. Tell the audience who you are. If you are John Doe, just say John Doe, expert in marketing or real estate, or 10 years experience in marketing, but explain who you are. We see, though, for large publisher, typically radio station, that it's pretty complicated to change the name of the publisher for those guys. But maybe you could do name of the broadcaster and anchor name or host name, and not only name of the broadcaster. Try to describe, explain, bring the content to the audience so that they can find you easier.
It's not just about the show title and the publisher or author name, right? There's more to this.
No, and that's for me the mistake number 3. People are just not spending enough time on a description. I've seen, and that from household names in terms of media companies, description of shows being like, new episode published every Thursday, and then maybe produced by XYZ and is a privacy policy. There's nothing for the audience. I mean, explain, describe, think about what's in for me, for the listener. In your show description, say, hey, this show talks about real estate. I'll stick to that example. Talk about real estate, and we talk about the issue of inflation rate and prices and markets and dynamics and energy renovation and all. I mean, explain to the potential listener what is in there. And by doing that, you're going to give a lot of data, what we call metadata, to the search algorithm of Apple Podcasts and Spotify and the likes. And those algorithms will actually take that data, those metadata, those keywords, and use those to rank you on search query related to those keywords. So here again, do some research, see what are the trends in your vertical in vertical in terms of content. Use Google, use Voxalyze, try it, but please describe the show. It doesn't stop there. You need to go as well in terms of episode title and episode description. We see way too many episodes that I call season 2, episode 3. What is it about? What's in? First mistake is Apple Podcasts or Spotify are going to rank you on the keyword season and episode. Doesn't bring anything. So in the show title, describe. Don't hesitate today to tease to a little bit, to be a bit like a clickbait strategy, generate desire, give envy to the people to listen to it. And then the last step of that PVO is to go to the show description. Don't use transcript. Transcript are not a description, especially if at the beginning of the episode you have some off-stressed ads or things that are not relevant, like leave us some stars and the likes. Take the time, take those extra 10, 15 minutes, describe the episode, explain and insert the keywords in the description that are relevant to the content of the episode.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I've seen that again with shows where there's a really strict naming convention in the show title that actually hurts the visibility more than it helps. Now there's a balance to strike here, because obviously if you have a series of several episodes talking about the same topic, obviously you'd want your listeners to be able to navigate that easily, but maybe put it at the end of the name of the episode, or really limit this type of practice to really those episodes that are in series, and for the rest focus on important keywords in episode titles and descriptions.
Absolutely. Just put the name of the episode, like I don't know, the real estate bubble in Lower Manhattan, season 2, episode 1. But put those at the end if you do a series, and if we stay on those on that topic of real estate.
And so when it comes to rankings in podcast listening apps, metadata, as we've talked about, is an important factor. But there's another really important factor that publishers really need to work on, right?
Yeah, and that's what we call podcast authority. To simplify and eventually to oversimplify, what's going to make you rank for certain search queries within the listening platform, so Apple Podcast and Spotify, to name a few. It's on one hand the metadata, so all what you use to describe your content, and on the other hand is a podcast authority. It's a quality sign. How well is your content received, perceived, and liked? So if you want to rank on real estate, it's not because you're going to put real estate everywhere into your metadata that you're going to get there. You need signs of quality, what we call podcast authority. And what is key there, it's ratings and reviews, numbers of downloads, numbers of subscribers, and a few other elements. I mean, it's a black box. Of course, Apple Podcasts or Spotify are not going to tell, hey, if you want to rank, you need so and so and so. It's like a Google algorithm. It's well kept secret. But we run a lot of tests, and we have shown that those elements like ratings and review, downloads, subscribers have a massive importance. So
while officially ratings and reviews don't count according to the platforms,
officially,
but,
practically, give it a try and go from, if you just launch a show, from 5 ratings and review to 15, 20. And surprise, you're going to start ranking way higher for all your keywords. It's just, in the web, for SEO, we talk a lot about backlink as a sign of quality. Someone taking the time to link to your website. And it's the same for ratings and review. Someone really spending the time to go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify to give 5 stars or 4, 3, whatever, to give stars and write a review. It's a painful process. So it shows that people are actually willing to do it. And the algorithm, we have seen it take it into account. That's why when you launch a podcast, we always tell the people we work with that ask your community, ask your fan, ask around, ask if you're an indie, ask your friends. If you're a large media company, have your anchor ask favors to the audience, ask for ratings and reviews. And after that, in the intro or outro, ask people, hey, if you like the show, please subscribe on your favorite listening platform, or please leave us some stars. It's really important. It's an uphill battle, but you always need to push on that. Podcast authority is This is a vast topic, and there's a great article on our website about it, and you'll probably put in the show note, but I really encourage people to go through it.
Focusing quickly on the ratings and reviews, these are country-based, right? So I'm guessing, depending on the country, a certain number of reviews is going to push your podcast authority more than in other countries. Let's say you need fewer positive reviews and ratings in Australia, say, than in the US, right?
Absolutely. The ratings and reviews are based on the country of the user. Let's say we'll take Apple as an example. So a podcast can have 2,000 5-star reviews in the UK on Apple Podcast and rank extremely high for a lot of keywords. That same podcast, if you move over to Canada, the US, Australia, may have almost zero review or very few 1-star reviews. And it's not going to be visible, not going to rank for a lot of keywords, not going to be visible. So it's really on a country base. Think about one more thing is when you think about ratings and reviews, it's not only for the search algorithm. It's also key for the listeners. There's been a lot of studies made in the world of mobile apps of the impact of stars in terms of audience downloads. And you see, if you move from 1 to 5 star for mobile, you should expect to get 8 times more downloads. If you move from 3 to 4 star, it's not a big step. It's about 80% more downloads. And if you move from 3 to 5 stars, you could expect to double your audience. So really think about the stars. It's an uphill battle for the algorithms and for the potential listeners. If you arrive and you see a show that has 10 reviews and it's 2 stars, it's not tempting. If you see a show that has thousands of reviews and it's a 4.7, you say, okay, a lot of people say it's good content. Let me try it.
You just talked about a way to, I guess, improve the number of listens that you get out of the number of times people find you in the search results, right? You've put all that work into optimizing your metadata. You've worked on your show authority, people type, marketing, for example. Your show appears as a suggestion, but they might not tap or they might not end up listening if factors such as the ratings and reviews are not right. What are other factors that come into play here?
In what we call conversion rate or click rate, what you see is the importance of cover art. People like to just throw a quick cover art, spend a few minutes on Canva or have a basic things. No, think about it. Look at it on mobile. How does it appear on a small screen, on a white background, on a dark background? Podcast publishers really need to make it easy to get and grasp at. Look at it for 2 seconds and ask the people, do a blind test. Look at it for 2 seconds, ask the people, what is the show about? And you will realize a lot of people have no idea. Or, I don't know, the text was too small, I didn't have to read all of that. So really make something that I look at it, I understand immediately what it is. Same here, there have been tests connected on mobile that to boost your conversion rate, the impact of the cover art for podcast icon for mobile app, you could easily boost your audience by another 10-20%. So really spend time on a cover art. Don't hesitate to do some tests, to iterate, but before launching into the platforms, test your cover arts with a small panel to see if they get in a blink of an eye what the content is all about.
It's helpful, if podcast publishers put themselves in the shoes of users on these platforms and maybe look for words that are really interesting to them and see what results pop up and what they're prone to tap on, right? And all what you mentioned is like really valuable things that they should be doing, because if you get more listens out of improving your cover art, that also means extra revenue if you're monetizing with ads, for example. So it's really worth it.
It's a positive cycle. You get more downloads, so you get higher podcast authority, so you rank higher for a lot of keywords, and therefore you get more visibility, therefore you get more downloads, and it spins. It's a flywheel. It spins in the right direction, and it's not that easy. You just need to have a bit of a structured approach, a couple of tools out there to help you out, and then off you go. You can really have your podcast take off.
Do you mind wrapping up those 5 key mistakes?
If you take promotion into account, if you spend a bit of time, I'm not saying budget, if you spend time and attention into doing promotion, if you pick a good title and also name for your show, if you craft the description of your show properly and you think about it, and if you go one level down, if you think about your episode title and description, and on top of it, you have a great cover that makes sense, you will do better than most of the podcasters out there, and you will see your audience really increase. It's not a big investment. It's just time, thinking, process, and off you go. You will take off.
But once you've put in the time and effort, it's not all that complicated to get into the, say, top 5%, top 1% of podcasters, because there are just so many out there that don't put in the effort, are not even aware of these optimization strategies. So publishers should definitely take advantage, as long as the race is easier to win, because the strategies are underestimated, let's say.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Do you want to add a final note?
Yep. If you have questions, or if you want to reach out, you can find me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, or simply head over to Voxalyze, VOXALYZE.com. And if you have any questions on all the topic we covered today on the show, or podcast visibility optimization, podcast analytics in general, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help podcast publishers succeed.
And I really encourage the audience to check out Voxalyze. It's an awesome tool. And I think a second listen will help, absorbing the content and really understanding and putting these advice in practice. Thank you so much.